Welcome to Bump Love. Every October, the world marks Cerebral Palsy Day, recognizing the 17 million people living with this condition all over the world. Today we are honored to have one Florence Namaganda. She's a neuropediatric therapist and founder of Special Children's Trust. That's an organization working with children with disabilities and their families. Just explain to us what cerebral palsy is.
Thank you very much. Now, cerebral palsy, first of all, cerebral means brain, and palsy means paralysis or problems with movement. So it's basically brain paralysis or a condition that affects movement. So, but cerebral palsy as all, it's a group of disorders that affect movement and posture due to damage to an immature brain. It's definitely problems with movement. They'll have problems with feeding, some of them. They'll have problems with also other sensory loss like on the skin, and sometimes might have an intellectual disability.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess what moms who are watching want to know is how do you get it? So is it genetic? Is it that if my mom had a cerebral palsy child, it's possible that I will one? How does it how do you get it? How are you infected by it here?
And or any sort of trauma. So accidents could be in a car or domestic violence or anything like that. A child can be born with cerebral palsy, or other things could be if mama has a disease. So for example, if you're already hypertensive, diabetic, conditions like that, all these things can lead to a child getting cerebral palsy, or mama getting rubella, which is called German measles, when the child is in the womb. That could also cause cerebral palsy. Other things could be genetic malformations. Other things could be exposure to drugs. And then also sometimes you get a headache, you get this, and just self-medicate. You say, oh, the Panadol I got last time worked, so let me try it again. So, some drugs are not good during the period of pregnancy. Then the other things that could cause it during pregnancy is when mommy's blood does not match baby's blood.
Oh.
Yes. And that is saying it loosely, but medically it would be what we call rhesus incompatibility. So children normally carry daddy's rhesus factor. So if mommy has factor, say, so for example, Manuela, what's your blood group?
I'm O positive.
So you're O positive.
But Brian is AB.
AB positive.
Positive.
So the AB or the O or the B do not matter. It is the positive, the sign, the factor that you're carrying. So if Brian was negative, which is rarely the case, if Brian was positive and you're negative, you'd find that your body treats your baby as a foreign object. So your baby gets into the womb and your body starts fighting it immediately, produces antibodies to remove the foreign body. And then sometimes baby wins, sometimes mommy wins. So if mommy wins, the baby will come out immediately, so there will be a miscarriage. Or the baby will stay. If baby wins, baby will stay in the womb, but mommy will be in distress throughout the pregnancy. And then afterwards, because there is already that environment inside there, the baby will be born with a condition. So maybe born with brain damage, maybe born with malformations. Okay, so rhesus factor is very important for us to know about. And then
that's why they keep telling us, find out your spouse's blood group, but not just a blood group, but the rhesus factor.
Yes,
so, okay,
yes,
wow.
It's very important to find out. So again, in the womb, what else could be? I talked about stress, I talked about depression. If someone is in a bad space where they cannot even take care of themselves, if someone has an intellectual disability already, or they're just in a bad space for a moment, that could also lead to a child being born with cerebral palsy. Then that is before birth. Now we are going at birth. One of the biggest problems is lack of oxygen during delivery. Okay, so things like prolonged labor. Yeah, if a child remains for a long time in the birth canal coming out, I keep telling people there are no rewards when you give birth naturally, contrary to when you give birth by C-section. Because I've seen people waiting for 20 hours, taking mumba, taking what, and all those things in order for the baby to come out. But the baby gets into distress. In that birth canal, once the labor pains start, there is a period of time. Because there is no oxygen, it becomes a vacuum and the baby is supposed to come out. So if they don't come out in time, then the brain may get damaged. But then also there are other things when a baby presents wrong. So you know the baby is supposed to present head first, coming out. But sometimes the baby will present legs first. Or bum first. And when these things happen, then when they're removing the baby, it takes so long for them to breathe. And then they will not. And then sometimes the cord being too long and it wraps around the neck, or there's a rupture of the membranes. You know, there are all these things that happen during delivery. And then there are those things also, what I call like archaic means of delivery, whereby they use forceps to pull out the baby, to yank out the baby. There are some places which still do that even in our country. They use a forceps or vacuum. So when they do that, then the baby gets in distress, does not breathe quickly. And then during birth also there are accidents. Baby comes out, is very slippery, or you are alone, there is no one to help you, and baby drops. And that happens a lot in many hospitals actually. And then sometimes if the baby doesn't drop, comes out and there is no immediate care. So removing fluids out of the nose or whatever, or any fluids that they may have so that they can breathe. That is why when a baby is born, in the first 5 seconds, immediately they come out, what do? Cry. To clear the airway, so that oxygen can go to the brain. So now if that doesn't happen, then the baby could have cerebral palsy. But also there is also when the child is born in an environment that is not hygienic. And if the baby is born in that kind of environment, then what is going to happen is that they'll get an infection immediately. So these are some of the things that happen at the point of delivery. So the point of delivery and before birth, we call that congenital cerebral palsy, meaning child was born with it or it happened in the first, before 28 days of delivery. But then afterwards, if it happens between then and age 2, that is called acquired cerebral palsy, meaning the child was born without it, they found it here. And the things that can cause that is increase in temperature due to infections. Okay? So, yes, so we need to know as parents what normal body temperature is. I have found actually now that we have these temperature guns that people many Ugandans don't know what normal temperature is. I mean, I went recently somewhere and they told me my temperature was 21. And I was like, and he was writing in his book and I was like, I'm dead. I can't be alive. I can't be alive because people do not know what normal temperature is. But now we remember in biology that the brain is a protein in nature and it denatures at 40 degrees. Every protein denatures at 40.
Do you remember in biology? I don't remember.
Yes.
I'm just asking about
S for biology. Yes, for biology.
No,
Yes.
we were actually, but not the brain, like the connection between the brain and the protein and the degeneration at 40. That one didn't happen.
So we were taught that a brain, so we were taught that proteins in nature at 40. Now our brains are protein in nature. So immediately the temperature starts spiking past 39, you need to be very worried as a mama. You need to start working overtime to make sure that you bring down the temperature. Because if you don't do that, then the brain will start to malform. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why children get cerebral palsy. Because many conditions cause increase in temperature, like malaria, like meningitis, like encephalitis. Many conditions would cause these things. And then even children falling. So a child is learning to walk, they're walking around, our slippery tiles boom on the floor, So these things below age 2, it can also lead to cerebral palsy. And then malnutrition. And when these days when I say malnutrition, I say it clearly to mean not that the child is emaciated. Because we believe that someone to be malnourished, they need to be very thin. But in this day and age, malnutrition also means eating the wrong food. So the child can be all plump, yeah. But they are eating the wrong food. So if they are eating junk and they were never, then they cannot fight. They cannot fight disease. Their brain is not growing. You know, I liked the thing you talked about, the brain cells and how many there are neurons that are forming in a child below age 3. Now, if those ones are not able to build up, sometimes the child might have some form of mild. Yeah, so these are some of the causes.
Wow, there are so many.
Yes.
Wow, there are so many. So it's
Very
kind of like
intricate,
edgy.
yeah.
Like you don't know when it's going to happen, and it can happen at any time. And especially the ones that are acquired
Yes.
cerebral palsy is really, really painful. But even for
For the one
who the
yeah.
baby has been born with it, or at the point of birth, you're always looking for somebody to blame. And to be honest, it's hard news for any mother. For any mother that their baby is not capable of doing certain things that normal children are able to do. So what are some of the challenges that are likely to present themselves for both the caregiver and
the child?
That child.
So again, cerebral palsy, remember I said it's a group of disorders of movement and posture. Then that could have some comorbidities of sensory, of sight, of speech, of all these things. So the challenges will be different according to how the child presents. But before maybe I talk about the challenges, let me talk about how it presents. How do you see it and know that the child has cerebral palsy?
Yes.
Because then it will feed into what challenge will each one face. So for example, for a person to say the child has cerebral palsy, one of the things will be, one is movement and posture. So they'll not hit their milestones in time.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there will be the presentation itself of cerebral palsy. Some children will be born and only the part of the brain that is damaged leads them to have only one side of the body damaged.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Yes. So one side of the body may be damaged, what we call hemiplegia. Okay? And then you'll find a child who is damaged the entire body. So all limbs are damaged. So with that kind of damage, again, the challenges will be different. Then you'll find a child who is only waist down. So the upper body is very active, but the lower part cannot move, okay? So that will be what we call diplegia, yeah? The one where all limbs are damaged is called quadriplegia. So quadri for 4, and then the whole, di for 2, and then hemi for half of the body. Like when you see someone who got a stroke, that kind of thing. So if they're moving as a block, that's a different challenge for caregiver. Yeah. For example, for a child like that, a caregiver will struggle dressing them up, will struggle feeding them because they are all in one block and their muscles are stiff. Okay, that will be a different challenge for self-care activities. And then for most of the children who are especially quadriplegia, remember all 4 limbs damaged and the whole body is stiff, that means they're totally dependent on someone else for everything else. Okay, then we'll have the next one, which is called the opposite of spastic, is what we call hypotonia or floppy, whereby every limb is soft, like everything is on its own. So there is no what we call it is association. There is no association. The arm is there, the leg is there, they occupy a lot of space. Now a child with that one again will have different challenges.
Yes.
Mama will have different challenges. You dress one arm, you throw it there, the leg, you know, and then sitting and standing and those things may be a problem because there will be no core contraction here in the middle and or communication sort of. Then we have children that what we call athetosis or dyskinesia. So that is where they have involuntary jerky movements, where a child is here but this arm goes there, the leg goes there, there's just a lot of movement, and when you see them they are moving. There's a lot of movement. Okay, so that dyskinesia is also another type, again different challenges for the parent. And then the other one will be ataxia, which is the most rare one. We don't have many of it, where the other I told you was involuntary movements. Now this one, it's the voluntary movements that have a problem. The most common one is spasticity and floppy. Yes, those are the most common ones. And dyskinesia in the middle. And then we have the ones which is mixed type. The mixed type is when a child has both symptoms. And but the ones that you'll see with that normally are children that are premature. You will find that they're spastic, all the limbs, but here in the middle they are
floppy.
They are floppy. Yeah. So I think all of them will present different challenges, and the challenges will be in independence and in self-care activities majorly. And if they have the comorbidities of sight, then you'll find the child cannot see, so mommy has to find ways, or daddy or whoever is caring has to find ways, or they can't hear, then you'll need hearing aids and all those things. And then you'll find some who have speech impairments, so that will also be another challenge, because you'll have to teach your child alternative means of communication. And then most children with cerebral palsy will have feeding challenges because the muscles are not well developed, so that means that feeding may become a problem. Yeah, so there are so many different challenges, but for me the biggest challenge I want to talk about, because I'm on a show with women, is the social challenge, the acceptance of you accepting your child, and also the community accepting you, because I've seen many parents, that is the biggest, because, and whenever we get in a new parent, that is the first thing that we want to work on, to take away the blame, to take away the shame, to take away those feelings of I could have done something, to the point of this is the condition, this is how we deal with it. And once that challenge is overcome, then these are the medical things. A lot can be done around that. And the other thing about, again, challenges is also the level of cerebral palsy, because there is also a way of classifying them according to function. Okay, so if a child is if we say a child is level 1, if you ever go somewhere and you hear that's level 1 cerebral palsy, that means this child is able to walk independently. Yeah, they have cerebral palsy, but they can walk independently. They don't need any gadget to help them. Then level 2, they can walk for some distances, but afterwards, so they can walk perfectly within the house, but if they're walking long distances, you need like calipers, you need whatever, and longer distances, a wheelchair. Level 3, this child can sit independently and can use their limbs. So meaning if you give them a wheelchair, they'll be able to operate it independently. And some of those can also be able to stand independently. Then level 4, there are those ones who have some sort of need some small support sitting. And so if you give them a wheelchair, you also need to support them a little bit more. And then they will be able to maybe wheel with support. But level 5 is that one who cannot do any of the above, where everything is dependent on another person. If you put them in a wheelchair, you have to strap them in, you have to make sure it's anchored right, and then you have to do everything for them. So the other levels, some of those children may have some independence in self-care skills. Level 5, from level 4 to level 5, most of those children will be dependent on other people for most of their
so now that you've educated us about the different forms of cerebral palsy, could you please educate us more on if there are in fact any treatment options, and is this maybe dependent on the level? Because I'm sure if somebody comes to you, a parent's first hope will be, is it curable? So maybe if you can take us through maybe the treatment or maybe manageable, because a lot of what you're saying is that in the way the disorder presents itself. So that to me speaks to symptoms. This is just so are the symptoms manageable? Are there treatment options? Is it curable?
Now I'm saying that I didn't do very well with my definition. So one thing I didn't say in the definition is that cerebral palsy is non-transferable. Meaning, me being with a child with cerebral palsy, my children playing with another child with cerebral palsy will not pick it. But it's also permanent. So you cannot cure it. Yes? So a child with cerebral palsy will be an adult with cerebral palsy, because once brain damage happens, it's not reversible. Okay, but so I know that's a lot of doom, but there is yes, but there is hope. There is hope. There is hope, because the brain is the most vibrant. The more I learn about the brain, is the more I fall in love with it, because it's like God in His mercies, He was brilliant. Like the brain has those cells in it, and when I'm describing them to parents, I say like shelves. you know. So you have this shelf here, you have this shelf here, and this shelf here, and all these shelves perform different functions for you, and you want to get into it. You will not get into it through the normal way. You'll have to bypass it to get in through another way. So that is what we do as people working with children with cerebral palsy, bypassing this one that is damaged and creating new pathways to make sure that this child can function, okay, to their full potential. Yes, all the options will depend on severity. So, and also when you started the interventions. I keep telling people early intervention is key.
Always best.
Yes. When a child is very young, when they bring me babies with CP, I am happy. Because you can do so much more than if they bring you someone who is already older.
Past 3 years.
Past 3 years, then you're doing maintenance, preventative maintenance. You're trying to maintain tone. You're trying to make sure that children don't get secondary disabilities. But before age 2, you can do so much more. To the question about what is available. So what is available is therapy, which is like physiotherapy. So basically to work on the muscles and bones, we need that very much, and teach the brain how to do it for itself, and to remind the brain that actually there is a part there that you need to be working on. So when we're working with children, we have to be intentional that the brain picks up. Otherwise it just becomes something else. And children learn through play. So physiotherapy, occupational therapy, these need to be with a lot of play. So occupational therapy is the one that teaches function of the hands majorly. We have speech and language for children who have, say for example, speech impairments. Then we have other therapies, recreational therapy. We need to make these children experience everything as much as possible. So that's why we do a lot of recreation with our children, because it's necessary to help them, to do for them what their body cannot do, so that the brain can pick it up and go like, aha, that is also possible. Okay, let me try also. And if you do it repeatedly, again and again, it will pick it, and then it will start doing it by itself. So that's another thing. What else? Special education, if a child has an intellectual disability. Then some children will be having problems with incontinence, meaning they cannot control their urine and bowel movements. So they gain something that can be done. There is also medication that can be given, especially for our children that are very spastic, like very, very stiff. So there is something we call baclofen. Baclofen just helps to reduce even diazepam and Valium. Diazepam is Valium, so relaxes the muscles and helps the children sleep better. Because when I tell people about spasticity, severe spasticity is like when you go to the salon and they plait your hair real tight,
and you stay that way,
and you stay like that forever. So that is severe spasticity. So those are some of the treatment options. Right now, stem cell is a new thing that is being experimented. It is still in trial phase. I want to emphasize that on your show. It is in trial phase. And if a treatment is still in trial phase, it should not be used on human beings yet. It is not safe. So stem cell is a new thing that they're trying to try with cerebral palsy. We haven't received any results yet because it's still in trial. Yes, and many countries which are legit, which are serious about consequences, do not recommend it. Yeah, so you'll find it in some countries, but in other countries you will not find it. So that is those are some of the treatment options. And if a child has an intellectual disability, then we'll go to special education. It's important that our children learn with teachers that understand what is going on in their bodies and their brains.
What strides have been made on a national level to help on cerebral palsy in children?
When we started out, it was like not very much, but now I'm happy to say that there is a lot that is happening. Many organizations are coming up and providing these services, the therapy services, the awareness. I'm in a forum where we have like 80 organizations that come together, creating awareness, supporting the mom, supporting the dad, because this is, for a child with a disability and not just cerebral palsy, the most important is the tribe around them. The community around the parent, because whatever the parent gets in, it feeds into the child. So we're having so many of those coming up, so many social media groups that are coming up to help. So there is a lot that is happening. and also there's a lot more awareness. What led me on this path is that I had never seen a child with disabilities in my entire life until I joined Molago to study physiotherapy. And then I saw like many, and I thought, in my head I still think I saw hundreds, but it couldn't have been. They were waiting for the appointment, and there were so many lying down there. And for me it was a shock, because I grew up in Kampala and I had never seen any. But right now you can see more children with disabilities in the street, in the parks, going out. So there's a lot of strides, a lot of awareness that is happening. People are putting their children out. There's still a lot of stigma, blame or shame and all these things, but it's at I started out, it's coming to 15 years ago. And I see a lot of progress, which makes me very happy. Many parents are coming up, many organizations are coming up, many special centers are opening up. So there's a lot of hope.
I think I've seen something that happens at Africana every once in a while for children with that. I don't know if you're aware of that.
The Down syndrome, I think.
Oh, that was
That's
different.
Down syndrome.
So
Yeah.
in that same breath, 6 October is almost here, apart from us wearing wonderful green ribbons and, trying to do, commemorate the day. What activities, what can we do? Like after Bump Love, what can an ordinary mom who's seated there watching this do to commemorate this day?
You see, because of COVID, we are blaming everything on COVID now. Because of COVID. But what I would like to say is, individually, let's reach out. Let's reach out to people that we know, or give it to ourselves as an assignment to reach out to find someone who has a child with cerebral palsy. Because, they need their emotional support. They need, I feel like one thing that we are failing in as Ugandans yet is respite care, where we can take away the children for a bit so that mommy can have time, because normally they don't have that. For days like this, in our organization, we normally do like Mom's Day type of thing, where we treat moms to a massage and hair and whatever and all those things. But now with COVID, we cannot do that. We cannot do that. But I just urge anyone who is watching, please reach out. Reach out, do something for that mom. Take the child for 2 hours, just 2 hours, and let her go shopping without worrying. Learn how to feed that child, because most of the moms do not leave home because nobody else can feed their child. They say, if I leave, my child will not eat. So do something, just reach out. I think that's the only way we can spread the love.
Oh wow, Florence, that was really, really informative, very educative on cerebral palsy, the condition that is. Many of us see the condition, we don't know how to go about it, but I'm glad that you had all these sentiments brought on the table for us. The mother with cerebral palsy, support them emotionally, physically, financially, because they truly need this. As you're there for them, Prudential is here for you. Remember to visit www.prudential.ug to open a PruEduSave account.